Hey, welcome back to my channel, Endless Pages. I'm Liv, and today's video is going to be my first monthly wrap up of the year, and I will be wrapping up all the books that I read in January. So in January I read 5 books, which was my goal, which I'm very happy with. I just made it within, I think I finished my last book at like 11:30 on the 31st at night, so I'm very happy I just made it. This is the first month I think I have ever successfully stuck to a TBR, both the amount of books that I wanted to read and the books that I wanted to read. I finished every single book I planned on reading. I didn't change out any, so very successful start to the year. So the first book I read in January was amazing, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Oh, I'm shaking the camera. I gotta stop putting my hands on the table. Basically, this book has the found family trope, which is one of my favorite tropes. I absolutely love it. Love it. I'm a sucker. I will read anything with found family in it. Basically, we follow our main character Linus, and Linus he works for this agency called the Department of Magical, in charge of magical youth. And he's kind of like a caseworker. He kind of goes to orphanages that home magical youth, and he's just kind of sees if the conditions are good, if the orphanages should stay open, or if they're just not functioning properly, or you know, cruelty is happening to the kids and they should shut them, or if like an incident occurs with one of the children that forces the orphanage to close. So that's basically our main character Linus, and one day Linus gets called in by very upper management, which are like, as how they sound, they're in charge of the Department of Magical Youth, and they send him to this island, to this orphanage who is run by a guy called Arthur, and there is a very dangerous children on this island in this orphanage. One of who is pretty much the Antichrist, and he's said to be able to bring about the end of days. So Linus is tasked to go to this island and see whether this orphanage should stay open or not. And when he goes there, he starts to develop kind of a relationship with the orphanage's master, Arthur. And yeah, they kind of grow close. And yeah, that's basically the premise. I love the character Linus, and I love how much growth he had, and how this book really shows, like, maybe even just like the power of children and the power of love, and how much other people caring about you makes you want to improve yourself and become a better person. And it's just really wholesome message of other people bring out the best in you. People I guess help you challenge yourself and challenge your prejudices and your views on life, despite your age as well, because Linus is, oh, I can't remember how old he's meant to be. Ooh, 40s, I want to say. Maybe, or maybe I got that really wrong. He's an older adult, and despite his age, he's still able to have new experiences and learn things and reflect inward on himself and grow and develop with the help of children. There's a bunch of different children that this book focuses on in the orphanage. Obviously, some children have more time than others. They play a more major role, but despite that, each character has its own really unique personality and recognizable personality, well thought out. They all have their own motivations and their backstories, despite some being more prevalent than others. I don't feel like there's any characters in this book that aren't given enough time, like, to get to know them, despite, you know, a couple being pretty much the main focus. The romance in this book is absolutely adorable, and it makes me so happy. I cried so many happy tears in this book. This book is beautiful. It made me feel so warm and happy inside. I enjoyed every second of reading this book. It will definitely become a reread when I'm feeling down or I just want to read something wholesome and happy. This book is a beautifully written book, well thought out characters, beautiful message, and a really, really good time. I rated this book 5 stars. I'm obsessed. What a start to the year. The second book I read in January was Aurora's End. This is by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the third and final installment of the Aurora Rising trilogy. This is like a sci-fi space opera, young adult book. So, I don't know how to say this without being super spoilery. I'm still shaking the camera. This was really disappointing read for me. This was, I'd say, like one of my most anticipated books of the year. Basically, quickly, the premise of the first book is we follow a guy called Tyler Jones. He's a cadet in this space. They're kind of like this independent, like peacekeeping, social justice kind of organization called Aurora's, the Aurora Legion. And Tyler Jones is a cadet, and the night before he gets to pick his squad, he goes out to space to do like a practice run, and he finds this girl called Aurora stuck in like stasis in this ship, and he rescues her. And because of that, he misses the draft of picking his squad, and he kind of gets left with the scraps, the really unwanted people. So it does have that amazing found family trope that I love so much. The first 2 books I rated 5 star. I loved the first 2 books in the series. I thought they were fantastic. They were really funny and fun and fast paced. And then I read the third book. So I don't know how to put this. This was so disappointing. I didn't like a lot of things about this book. I understand, without spoiling, I understand why our characters were separated. It's such a big cast of main characters that I guess you have to separate them so they can do their own thing and flesh them out a little bit more. I do get that, and I understand that's what happened at the end of the previous book that put them in that place. But this was the final book, and I really wanted to see more interactions of all the customers, sorry, I'm still in TAFE mode, all of the characters, because the second book they're all separated as well, so I really missed that great dynamic of everyone being together and the banter that brought that, the banter that happened because of them all being together. I understand separating them into like little groups meant that we could have new interactions with characters that haven't interacted as much, and yeah, that's good, but I just missed them all being a squad and all working together, because that's what made me love the book so much. There was also a sci-fi trope that I am not a fan of. Like, I like it when it's done well, but it was the main plot for this book, and it was just so frustrating to read and so repetitive and boring that I had no interest in picking up the book, which is so surprising because the first 2 books I loved so much. There was also a romance that was kind of started in the previous book between 2 characters that I won't say who, that I think was kind of toxic, and I was like, I don't find this relationship cute at all. Like, this relationship is concerning to me, and the 2 people that are together are like just 2 different people, and I get that maybe they were going like, you know, they can help improve each other and set aside their prejudices, but I didn't see any of that. The character that was clearly prejudiced and a murderer, like, of so many people and not a good person, was like, I don't know, was she meant to be like softened by being in a relationship with this certain person in the book? But like, you didn't see any like character development. The only development she had was like opening herself up to him and no one else, and like, she clearly wasn't sorry with what she had done. I liked that she was a really strong female character and a lead. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you can be that and be a good person and not be like a mass murderer. Anyway, if you've read the book, I think you'll know who I'm talking about in this relationship. Yeah. There was also another romance in this book between 2 people that kind of came out of absolutely nowhere. Like, obviously we knew one of the characters had a thing for the other one in previous books. But suddenly this character, this other character that he was interested in was suddenly like obsessed with him. And I was like, where did this come from? There's no build up. She never paid him any mind before, and now it's suddenly like, oh yeah, I love you. And I'm like, it's cute. I ship it and I'm glad. But like, where was the lead up to this? It just came out of nowhere. It was just suddenly she was like, oh, I notice you now. And I was like, you didn't notice him the previous 2 books when you were together? I don't know. I literally gave this book 3.5 stars because I wasn't enjoying reading it. I wasn't looking forward to picking it up. I thought it was a super disappointing end to a fantastic series with such an interesting and fun premise, and it just, what a bloody letdown. But then the 3rd book I read this year lifted my reading mood back up, and that was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Wow, what a book. This took me a while to get through. It's a chunker and you really have to pay attention because there's a lot going on. So we have Rin, and Rin is a dark-skinned peasant girl, and she takes part in this test called the Keiju. Yeah. And basically you pass, you get into this military school, and she passes, gets in, and starts to, you just follow her, basically her life training at this military school, and the kind of craziness of that and all the horrible things she gets put through for being dark-skinned and for being kind of like a peasant, because everyone that goes to this school is like, you know, wealthy, privileged, warlords' children. So your typical racism and classism. And then there's also another element, like the political element, that's kind of building up throughout this book, and that is the, why did I forget their name? Oh, the Mugen Empire. Who they have had like 2 wars with before, and the tension is starting to build again with that. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't think I would, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Rin's character is fascinating to read from, and I think it was so refreshing because I think personally she had traits that are usually written into male characters and not so much female characters. Like she had this drive and this kind of ambition that would normally be like, oh yeah, that's a male thing, or like that's not really how a female should act. So that was really refreshing to read from. Rin's ambition and her willingness to do what she has to do to succeed. She didn't have anything handed to her. She always fought tooth and nail for everything she had, and for her place at this school, despite getting in and testing and getting in, she still had to fight tooth and nail for her position and to prove to everyone else, and I guess herself a little bit too, that she really belonged there. There was also another really interesting element with the shamanism, this kind of martial arts that Rin discovers she can do, and then we kind of get a plot with the gods, which was really fascinating. I loved the martial arts system there. I thought that was a fascinating way to do it, and a really interesting, very interesting kind of way to do it with, that was not a good sentence. Yeah, the cost that it takes to have this power, and again, Rin's kind of battle with that, and is the cost worth the power? The final line of this book has continued to stick with me. It's definitely a great way to end the book, and it just leaves you like, I need to know what happens next. Like right now, I need to pick up the sequel. And I have the sequel now, which I'm happy about. I thought this book was absolutely fantastically written, and just not too much information that even I could keep up with it despite everything that was happening. Despite most of the book being written in the military school, there's always so much happening, and you know, when she's in class, you're learning too with her. So it's a great way, rather than like telling me about the history or the politics, you're learning with her. So it's not just a boring information dump. You also hear the students kind of discuss and debate, which makes learning about the politics and the history and the war so interesting. This book was absolutely fantastic. I rated The Poppy War 5 stars. Then I read The Law Olympics by Rachel Smith. This is the physical copy, but it started out as a webtoon online and they've started putting it in print. I really enjoyed this book. The art is absolutely stunning. Like, I'm obsessed with the art style, and I now keep looking up so much fan art because it's just like so visually appealing. Really cute story. So basically we followed Persephone, who's the goddess of the spring, and she's kind of grown up in the human world away from Olympus, and now her mum has agreed to let her go to Olympus and join in the lifestyle there. And there she meets Hades, god of the underworld, and it's really cute. My problem is that because it's such a short webtoon, obviously normally you go on and continue on online, but I don't know, should I go online or should I just wait for the next physical copy to come out of the next volume? I don't know, I'm conflicted. I don't have much else to say about this book other than beautiful art story, super cute storyline, and I can't wait to see how this continues. Finally, I read Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is my first ever Robin Hobb book. I'm so glad that I decided to start her books, I should say. So this book is basically about a bastard called Fitz, and Fitz is the bastard of the prince in waiting in this kingdom called the Six Duchies. And Fitz just basically grows up just chilling with the animals, and he's treated very much like a bastard normally is. And then they say like, we may as well make use of him, and they train him to be an assassin. So basically you just follow Fitz growing up and training to be an assassin and trying to survive basically. I cannot put my finger on why I love this book so much. I think it's just the writing that I love. Fitz, I didn't feel like a super connection to or a protectiveness over him, but despite saying that, like, it really did affect me when he's got a tough life, and it's like really depressing all the stuff that happens to him, and it still hit my heartstrings, even though I wasn't super like protective of Fitz. Despite there not being like a super major plot line throughout the most of the book, I think the most action kind of happens at the end. I was still intrigued. There's so much happening with Fitz and so many little side characters that make this book interesting. And kind of make up for the fact that I just don't think there's a huge overarching plot. So those really interesting character interactions and storylines kind of make up for that. Little epilogue at the end was also another great way, like the Poppy War, to end the book. It's definitely got me intrigued with what's kind of gonna happen. This is the first book in a trilogy, the Farseer trilogy. I should have said that before. So they've got 2 more books to go after this now. I hope the sequels have a little bit more action now that we've kind of set up who Fitz is, what he can do, the people that he interacts with. Yeah, like I said, all of the kind of supporting characters I think were what made this book, especially like characters like the Fool, I found very, very intriguing. He was very mysterious, and despite being the Fool, he was clearly very intelligent and clearly knowledgeable about all of kind of the politics of what's going on in this world. So I'm intrigued. I hopefully get to see a little bit more of him in the future. So yeah, I gave Assassin's Apprentice 4 stars. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy with all that I got done reading wise in January. Only one disappointing read, my most anticipated. Everything else was absolutely fantastic. I had a super fun time reading this month. Let me know in the comments, what did you read in January? Did you have any disappointing reads? How many books did you read? Did you hit your goal? I would love to know. And if you want to see more of my horrible reviews of books, maybe hit the subscribe button, and then you can see when I post, and I post every Wednesday now. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in whatever I post next. Bye!